That one's sometimes, oh, no, not again. Hello everybody and welcome back to Dollar Tree Dinners. My name is Rebecca and today is another day where I'm cooking for the senior and her grandson that I am assisting. I asked you guys for name suggestions last time and you guys had a lot of really great ones, but the one that kept coming up and the one I'm leaning towards the most is Cooking for Community because of the alliteration and because of the generalization of it, because it's not specific senior or anything of that sort. It could just be about cooking for someone in your community who might need some assistance. So if I were to ever make something kind of bigger out of this, I think that's a really good way to go. There was another one that was Neighbors in Need, which is also a really great one. So I will leave it up to a vote. Do you like Cooking for Community or Neighbors in Need? Let me know in the comments below. So last week I was on a bit of a time crunch and I wasn't able to make as much food as I had hoped to make, so we're gonna recoup this week. And another thing that I'm thinking is in terms of structure, not just for her and her grandson, but for myself. So I've actually decided that it's in my best interest to make a menu each week and pick out a meal from several different categories so that I make sure I'm providing them enough variety in the meals. So what I've decided is that every week I'm gonna include some kind of a fresh fruit. Last week I did include cantaloupe. I didn't film that because I kind of did it last minute. The neighbor said she was on her way. I opened up the fridge and saw that I had a cantaloupe, chopped it up real quick, threw it in some containers, and they loved that. So I am going to include some kind of a fresh fruit every week for them. I also am going to include some kind of a soup, specifically something I can make in my crock pot because that will give me time that can just be kind of simmering while I'm cooking other things. And I feel like a soup and a sandwich is generally a really good lunch. We're gonna include some kind of a sandwich, or if it's not a sandwich, something that can be eaten cold. I'm kind of lumping those two together. Something that doesn't need to be reheated. The first week it was like a pasta salad. I didn't have anything like that in last week's meals. A dessert or a sweet treat, I wanna include something like that every week. And then as far as the actual meals go, 1 breakfast and 2 dinner options. I feel like that is a really nice spread, a really nice variety of fruit, a soup, a sandwich, a dessert, a breakfast, and 2 dinners. We have 7 things to cook today. Let's go ahead and get started. So we are going to start with a soup because, as I mentioned, the goal is to be a little bit more consistent, a little bit more efficient, especially. I figured a soup is nice because it's something I can just throw on the back burner and let it just kind of simmer away all day. This week I chose a chicken pot pie soup, and the recipe that I'm using comes from Spend with Pennies. Now I am going to put my own twist on the recipe because she is doing like a slow cooker chicken pot pie, but I really want to do a chicken pot pie soup. So I'm going to make mine a little bit more soupy, basically. And then the other part is that I'm going to add dumplings into it towards the end of cooking. So it's a little bit more like the canned pub style chicken pot pie soup. This is my crock pot. I don't know what size it is. It's a Hamilton Beach. I'm pretty sure it's like 8 or 10 quarts. I have a lot of crock pots actually, but this is the biggest one that I have. And I'm trying to practice cooking in larger batches because if I do want this to grow into something, then I need to learn to cook for just more than 2 to 4 people. So there's my big crock pot. We're making chicken pot pie soup. For that I have a big package of boneless, skinless chicken breast. Because it's chicken pot pie, we are also gonna need potatoes, and I know I did a lot of potatoes last week, but I promise you this is the only dish that I'm gonna be using potatoes in this week. I also have some onions. I just got a big bag of onions, but I'm only gonna be using 1, maybe 2. The controversial cream of something soup, when it comes to cooking in a crock pot, these are actually kind of a really good addition because they don't curdle like other dairy products might. I have 2 cans of cream of celery and 2 cans of cream of chicken. Chicken broth, I have a carton of reduced sodium chicken broth. For seasonings, I have some parsley and some poultry seasoning. I like to buy my herbs in these little freeze-dried jars because they keep for pretty much ever. They are a little bit more expensive. I usually buy them when they're on sale for about $3 a jar. Pot pie, the last thing is a bag of frozen mixed vegetables. I did all my shopping for this one at Walmart. I typically don't, but I needed to be able to do grocery pickup this go around, so Walmart was my best option, but you can get these pretty much anywhere. These are going to go back in my freezer for now because they're not going to go in the soup until closer to the end, and then we'll also talk about the dumplings as we get closer to the end as well. I get asked a lot for crock pot recipes and slow cooker recipes, but I personally don't do a whole lot of cooking in the slow cooker, so I don't have a recipe repertoire. I've cooked maybe a handful of things in the slow cooker my entire life, and it's usually things like soups, like chicken tortilla soup is one that I've made a lot. So hopefully this gives me a little bit more experience with the slow cooker. It's just not something that I really gravitate towards as far as cooking goes, and it's also not something I generally have the patience for. Like whenever I want to cook something, I don't really have 6 to 8 hours to wait for it to cook. So for this recipe, we're going to start by cubing up some chicken. As I mentioned, I'm going to use anywhere between 4 to 6 chicken breasts. I'm going to start with 4 and just see how much chicken that is, because these breasts are quite large. Another reason why I rarely do crockpot recipes is because within the realm of cooking from Dollar Tree and Dollar General, there really aren't that many affordable protein sources. So slow cooker recipes from the dollar store really are not the best option. I do think 4 chicken breasts is going to be plenty. And that's the other thing I keep deliberating in my mind is like, I've only ever cooked for like 2 to 4 people at any given time, so I've never really had to buy things in bulk. But with this, I have to start thinking in terms of larger package sizes and making sure that I'm getting enough food for everything that I want to make. Next thing is going to be an onion. I am doubling the recipe, sort of. I probably won't double the onion just because I don't want the onion flavor to be overpowering in any way. And that's also going to go in the crock pot with the chicken. And we're going to peel and dice a few potatoes. It calls for 1 large potato. I have kind of medium-sized ones, so I'm going to do 3 medium-sized ones in place of 2 large ones. In place of peeling and dicing potatoes, you can also use frozen hash browns. Probably about 2 to 3 cups of frozen hash browns would work. As far as their feedback on last week's meals go, they really enjoyed them. I did hear that the potatoes were cut a little bit too big for the grandmother, and she also preferred the meatloaf without the ketchup on it, which I thought was interesting. And then the final feedback that I got was that the soup, even though I was trying to be cautious of not making it too spicy, it was too spicy. I have to be a little bit more mindful of spicy foods. Something that might be more tolerable for me is not as tolerable for them. But otherwise, they had really good things to say. And today, I'm actually going to be delivering their meals myself. Now we're going to go in with our diced potatoes. And then this particular recipe says to mix this all together in a bowl and then put it in the crock pot. I don't know how necessary that step is, or if you can just mix it all in the crock pot. I feel like you could really do either, and my reason for doing the whole cream of chicken, cream of celery soup is because I still want these recipes to be attainable for you guys as well. I try to make sure that everything that I share is kind of accessible for my audience no matter what. So that was 2 cans of cream of chicken. Now we're going to do 2 cans of cream of celery. I'm sure you could really use any combination of soups that you want or have. Cream of mushroom would probably be really good. And then I'm also going to do 2 cans of reduced sodium chicken broth. We're going to go in with some of our parsley and also poultry seasoning, about 2 teaspoons, which is pretty much all I have left. I'm going to mix that until it's all combined. Oh yeah, it says pepper too. Pour that all over top carefully because it's splashing everywhere. I also still need to add the mixed vegetables, so maybe I slightly overestimated the size of my crock pot a bit. This is going to get cooked, it says on low for 7 hours or on high for 4 hours. I'm going for the high option because I'm trying to get this whole cooking process done in a matter of time. I'm going to go ahead and get started on the dessert next, and for this I'm going to be making some no-bake pretzel peanut butter bars. This recipe is from Budget Bites. It's a new one that I've never tried before. I like this one because all of the ingredients could come from Dollar Tree. Again, I did all my shopping for this at Walmart, but we'll talk about some Dollar Tree substitutions as I go through it. It says it makes 25 squares, so I'm probably not going to double this recipe. I'm just going to make it as it's written. Line an 8x8 dish. Okay, 8x8. Let's start with that. I don't have any parchment paper though, do I? I'm probably going to go and use wax paper because that's what I've got. Should work just as well. So we've got our 8x8 pan lined with wax paper. And now we need to make some crumbs out of the graham crackers. It says 1 cup of graham cracker crumbs, about 8 sheets. Again, if you wanted a cheaper alternative, you can just get the pre-made graham cracker pie crusts and just crumble those up, and then you don't need a blender or anything. So now we do 1 stick of butter or margarine into a bowl, along with 1 cup of creamy peanut butter. And then this goes in the microwave. It says on 30-second intervals until they're melted together. So that was 1 minute in the microwave. And let's stir that. Next we add 1 cup of powdered sugar and 1 cup of graham cracker crumbs. Stir that until everything is evenly combined. I'm really just looking to make sure all the powdered sugar is worked in. And then this mixture is going to get spread into an even layer at the bottom of our lined baking dish. Let's get it nice and even in all the sides and corners. Okay, then we gotta make the chocolate topping for it. So I'm gonna wash this bowl real quick so I can just reuse it. So we need 1.5 cups of chocolate chips. I went with semi-sweet, although I debated. It doesn't specify. I debated doing milk chocolate because milk chocolate's what they use in Reese's cups. So I definitely thought about milk chocolate. So there's 1.5 cups of chocolate chips. I'm gonna eyeball the peanut butter on this because I hate measuring peanut butter with measuring spoons. That's about 2 tablespoons. We'll microwave that on 30-second bursts until it's melted and combined. After the first 30 seconds, give it a stir. That's our second 30 seconds in the microwave. But always give it a thorough stir first because chocolate actually needs agitation to melt. So before you microwave it any further, stir it for a good 20 to 30 seconds or so. I'll probably give it 15 more seconds. And that's perfect. So 1 minute, 15 seconds with 2 stirs in between. We've got a nice smooth chocolate mixture. I think they're really gonna enjoy this dessert as long as they like Reese's cups. Now we're gonna pour this chocolate mixture over top of our peanut butter base. I call this like kind of flouncing because I'm trying, again, not to disturb the base layer. So I have a nice clean level line between them. So I just kind of tap it up and down. And then we're supposed to add the pretzels on top. So this is gonna be nice, sweet, and salty. She said that she did 5 rows of 5 pretzels each. This will be a really pretty and easy dessert to bring to like an office party or a potluck too, I feel like. Look how pretty that looks. Okay, and now this needs to go in the fridge for a couple of hours, and it doesn't say to cover it. It just says to refrigerate for 2 hours until completely set. So let's stick those in the fridge. Pretty good progress so far. I've only been working for, I wanna say, an hour, hour and a half. We've got the soup going in the crock pot. We've got the dessert in the fridge. Now we can start working on some of the cooking things, I say. So I think I'm gonna start with the breakfast. And for that, I'm gonna be making French toast with some ham and cheese egg bites and some sausage links. For the French toast, I'm not just gonna be making any French toast. I'm gonna be making my best ever French toast because I don't just want to give her any food. I want to give her the best possible food. And I did make a purchase to do this because, you know, in the topic of trying to cook for larger groups of people, that means that I need to expand what I have. So I bought a griddle, which will hopefully make some of these a little bit easier for me to cook in large batches rather than trying to do a couple of slices of French toast on a skillet at a time, but you can definitely do this on a skillet. This is my recipe for the best ever French toast, and the best ever French toast starts with a really good bread. I like brioche bread, and this is the one that I buy. It's the thick sliced, Nature's Own, perfectly crafted. Let's see how many slices it comes with. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Is that 13? Is that what it says? Yeah, well, it says 15. I think it's counting the end pieces, which I am gonna start saving for making French toast casserole down the line. I have done that in the past and then I didn't end up using them, but I'm gonna start doing that again because I love this brioche bread for making French toast. So I have 2 loaves of that. So we're gonna be making 26 slices of French toast, which would take a long time on a skillet. We're gonna do it on a griddle instead. But the first thing I wanna do is dry out this bread. So I have my oven preheated to 170 degrees. Typically, I would just let it sit overnight, but I didn't really plan that far ahead last night. So I am gonna do it in the oven. And again, we're working with the whole loaf here. We're working 2 whole loaves. So it looks like I can fit 16 slices on one of my oven racks. We're gonna let that dry toast in the oven for, I wanna say, probably 15 to 20 minutes or so. As I mentioned, I usually get this process started the night before, so they usually just dry out in the oven overnight with the heat off. And trying to be more efficient and create very little to no waste with this process, I'm gonna take the ends of the bread, I'm gonna cut them into cubes. And I'm gonna start saving all of my bread ends in a gallon-sized freezer bag until it's full, and then we'll make a batch of French toast casserole down the line. I'm sure you'll be there for that too, hopefully. Starting a freezer stockpile. I should be doing that with my vegetable scraps too, but I've already talked about how I don't really cook with things like carrots or celery, but that might change now that I'm cooking for someone else and not just myself. We are not wasting any time, so while that bread's drying out, we're gonna get started on the ham and cheese egg muffins. And in my last video, I was talking about how I used to have a mini loaf pan for the meatloaf and how I felt like I must have gotten rid of it because I couldn't find it anywhere in my kitchen. So a subscriber generously sent me some off of Amazon. So thank you to you for sending me some. I had ordered some and we accidentally kind of duplicated. So now I have 4 of them, which will definitely come in handy because we're trying to cook as much food as we possibly can. I'm probably not going to be making 16 egg muffins, or not 16, 32 egg muffins, but I am going to try to make quite a bit. So we're going to be using these little mini loaf pans, and I think this is the first time in my entire life that I have ever bought 60 eggs. The secret to very rich and creamy egg bites is actually cottage cheese, and that's what Starbucks puts in their egg bites as well. So I'm going to add some into my egg bites today. But you don't want to leave the cottage cheese whole and chunky. You actually want to blend it so it's nice and smooth and creamy. I added a little bit of milk to thin it out. I was struggling to get this open. Kind of made a cottage cheese smoothie. I know that sounds absolutely lovely. But that is our texture there, and I promise you, these are so delicious. Dollar Tree bowls are kind of perfect for this because of the pour spout. I have a collection of them, and I think I'm going to do about 20 eggs. 10, 12, 14, 16, I did 21 by accident. Oh well. And now we're gonna add 1 cup of our blended cottage cheese. Now, this is one of those moments where like one of those like immersion blenders would probably be helpful so you don't have to do this the way that I did it, or having a bigger blender than I have. But we're gonna whisk that all together, the eggs and the creamy cottage cheese mixture. And I'm also gonna season that with some salt and pepper. These loaf pans are non-stick, but I don't mess around with eggs, so I'm still gonna spray them with non-stick cooking spray. And I'm doing ham and cheddar egg bites. So I'm gonna divide this diced ham evenly between these 8. For my cheddar, I have a triple cheddar, so this is Vermont cheddar, sharp cheddar, and mild cheddar. And last thing I'm gonna do is pour this egg mixture over top. Grab a fork and just kind of make sure everything's evenly distributed. There's no air pockets. All right, so there are our ham and cheddar egg bites prepped. Let's figure out what I can do with the rest of this. So after a little bit of deliberation, I decided to do some diced red bell pepper, some shredded Monterey Jack cheese, and now I'm adding in some chopped spinach that I thawed and drained. And that is what that looked like. So this is kind of like a veggie one. I just mixed it all together since this was the rest of it. I have a little bit of mixture left, but I don't want to use a whole nother loaf pan for that. And that's the reason I keep little things like this from Dollar Tree. So let me spray that, and I'll just bake the rest of that in there, kind of like a souffle. That'll probably be my breakfast for this morning. So we've got 2 different types of egg bites. We have the ham and triple cheddar, and then we have spinach, red pepper with Monterey Jack. As soon as the French toast, or as soon as the bread's finished drying out, we're gonna pop those in the oven. I did increase the heat slightly on the bread so that it would dry a little bit faster. So I've been doing it 225, but I think it's about done. Oh yeah, that's perfect. So let's transfer those so they can cool a bit. Love it when a plan works out. All right, let's increase this to 350 for the egg bites. These egg muffins are gonna go in, since these are mini loaves and not like muffin size, they're a little bit larger than a muffin. So I'm gonna say 20 to 22 minutes as opposed to the standard 18 to 20. It might even be closer to 25. Now let's talk about the custard for the French toast, because that's also part of why this is the best ever French toast. The richer of the milk you use, the better your French toast is going to be. I use whole milk or sometimes half and half, depending on what I have in the fridge. I prefer half and half. Can always make more custard on the fly. So I'm going to start off with 3 cups of whole milk. So then I'm gonna do 9 eggs, or you can also do egg yolks, again, if you wanna make it richer. And that's something that I sometimes do when I'm making French toast, is I use the yolks for the French toast, and I'll use the whites to make egg bites. A couple of other additions that I like to add are vanilla extract. I'm pretty heavy-handed with this, for this batch especially. And brown sugar instead of granulated sugar. It's a really common topic on my channel, is whether or not you put sugar in your French toast, but I've always done brown sugar. I'm gonna do about a half cup of brown sugar in my French toast custard. Normally I'd add cinnamon to it, but there is an active recall on a lot of cinnamons, and I tried to get some from Walmart, but they were out of it. So I'm gonna have to leave out the cinnamon because I currently don't have any. It said for French toast to preheat it to 350, which is what I did, but it's quite hot right now. So I'm gonna drop it down. I tend to cook my French toast on a little bit lower temperature, so I'm gonna drop it down to like 300 or 330. Let's go down with some butter. This is intimidating. I know to some of you it's not, but I've never cooked on such a big surface before. All right, let's just get this going. So dunk each slice of bread. I like to hold it under till it kind of softens a bit. That's usually about 10 to 15 seconds. And time to start frying. I just realized I can dunk 2 slices of bread at one time, so let's try to do that. So it looks like I can fit 12 slices on this griddle. And these are pretty big slices of bread, so probably 16 regular slices. Hopefully it cooks kind of evenly. I'm concerned about the middle ones cooking faster than the edge ones, but it does look like it's cooking them pretty evenly. We'll flip that back and let it go a little while longer. Go up to 350, kind of toying around with the temperature here a little bit. There's definitely some hot spots on here closer to the plug-in. I kind of overcooked that piece slightly. I do like the efficiency of this, because usually I'd be doing like 2 to 3 slices at a time. While I'm working on the French toast, it looks like the egg muffins are done, and holy crap, did those puff up, especially those spinach ones on the side there. They look done. So let's pop those out and let them cool. They'll deflate as they cool, but they look amazing. They're so cute. So I did kind of accidentally make a souffle, although I don't know why they kind of rose just on one side. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get our second batch of French toast going. I do like this griddle, minus the issues of kind of uneven heating, but that's something I can work around, so.
So I gotta keep an eye on this front corner one because it tends to cook up the fastest. Oop, my power just went out for a second. Hopefully that doesn't continue. While I have the griddle here, I'm also going to fry up some sausage to go on the side. I have some just brown and serve sausage links. And that's 40 sausage links altogether. While we're at it, let's go ahead and get some bacon cooked too. The bacon is actually gonna be for their sandwiches, but I feel like since I already have the griddle out, it's already preheated, I can go ahead and fry that up. I'm gonna make them some turkey bacon club sandwiches this week. So consensus is that I do like the griddle, and I probably will be giving the other one away maybe in the next video after I figure out the logistics of how I want to give it away. But it's copper, it's non-stick, it's doing a pretty fine job of cooking everything. So, and it does have like a grease like catch tray up here. So here's what we've got going on. We've got the spinach and red pepper egg bites. We have the ham and cheese egg bites. We have a big old platter of French toast, and we have our sausage links. I am going to be including syrup for the French toast, so I ordered some of these little cups with lids. Now what I'm doing here is I'm prepping 12 meals. That's going to be 6 for them, and then probably 4 for Michael and I, and 2 I will stick in the freezer for later, because as I mentioned, I'm trying to do a stockpile here. So I'm only going to be putting syrup in 6 of them for now, because those are the 6 I'm going to be delivering. I'm not going to put them in the ones for Michael and I, because I'm not going to waste a cup when we could add our own syrup to it. And also, I'm not going to be putting syrup in the ones for the freezer. I'll add that later on. Pop the lids on those. Trying to decide what my best container is going to be for these. A container stockpile. I think I'm going to use these today. That one's sometimes, oh no, not again. Okay, so my power is out, which means that my lights are also out, but I still need to get these packed up. So let's go ahead and just do that without power. Start with the French toast. Now we're gonna go with our egg muffins. Now I have 8 of each, so I'll have to kind of do half and half. We'll do some spinach in some of them and ham in some of them. We'll probably just alternate. And now we have our sausage links. So there is their breakfast meal prep. So we have 2 slices of French toast, 4 sausage links. We have a cup of syrup and then an egg muffin. Okay, power's back on. Now let's get moving again, regain momentum, because I was like being ultra productive and I felt like I was on a roll. And then of course, whenever I actually feel like I'm being productive and actually getting stuff done, that's when something like a power outage decides to happen. I wasn't sure how long the power was going to be out, so I did transfer the soup into the fridge, but it's still hot because the power was only out for like an hour or so. I'm not even quite sure now where we're at as far as cooking the soup goes, but it does look like the chicken is cooked. If the potatoes are tender, then I should be good to just add in the mixed vegetables. Let's try some and see. Let's grab some chicken and some potato. All right, let's see if those are good to go. Chicken seems cooked, but the potato still has a little bit of bite to it. Kind of bland. I feel like it needs some stuff. I'm gonna add some thyme into it. I also feel like the potatoes like knocked out some of the salt from it, so I'm gonna add a little bit of chicken bouillon just to bring back some flavor. I'm going to add some more pepper to it. Okay, now let's mix that all in. All right, that definitely improved it a good bit. Let's stick that back in the crock pot. And this crock pot is super full, so I'm definitely not gonna be able to fit any dumplings in it. once I have these mixed vegetables in it, it's pretty much as full as it's going to get. I'm not going to be able to fit anything else. This is a 32-ounce bag of mixed vegetables. Definitely not going to be able to put dumplings in it. Maybe I'll have to table that for a later day. I'm going to go ahead and stick the lid back on that. It's still on high heat and let it run for another hour or so, and then the soup should be ready. So I think with that being said, I'm going to move on to the dinners that I'm going to be making, and I'll save the kind of no cook options for last with the sandwiches and the fruit and things like that. I'll do those at the very end. At this point, I'm delayed, so I'm probably not going to be able to deliver these meals to them tonight. I'm probably gonna have to deliver them tomorrow because she does go to bed by 7, so I would have to be there to drop them off before then, and that's not gonna happen at this point. So one of the dinners I'm gonna be making is teriyaki chicken, and again, I'm trying to like size things up, so I'm gonna be doing this teriyaki chicken casserole. This is from Life in the Loft House, and it says it serves 8, but even more so, I'm gonna take this recipe and I'm still going to double it. I'm pretty sure I doubled it initially, but I'm quadrupling it. I'm gonna get some rice cooking. This is the largest rice cooker that I own. It cooks 20 cups of rice. One, two, three, and 4. There we go. I'm gonna rinse that a few times. I usually do 1 part rice to 2 parts water, but I've heard that for a rice cooker, you should do 1 to 1. And so I'm gonna try that today, which is kind of actually what it measures out here because it's filled up to the 4 line. So I have 4 cups of rice and 4 cups of water. Do the 1 to 1. So it's actually gonna make about 8 cups of cooked rice instead of 12, but that's okay because I don't want them to be too rice heavy anyways. So let's get that going. Now we're gonna make some teriyaki sauce. I'm just gonna mix this directly in a pot. So I need 3 cups of low sodium soy sauce. 2 cups of water. 1 cup of brown sugar. I'm gonna be adding some ginger and some garlic to it. The ginger that I buy is just in this little squeeze tube here because again, it's one of those things that I don't use very often. I do have some garlic left in one of those squeeze tubes too. So I'm probably gonna pretty much finish that off. There's not much in there. And then we're gonna bring that mixture up to a boil on the stove top. In the meantime, while that comes up to a boil, I'm gonna mix up the cornstarch slurry, which since I'm doubling it is gonna be 8 tablespoons of cornstarch, which is also half a cup if you'd rather do it that way. For this size batch, it was half cup of cornstarch to half cup of water. It's just about to come up to a boil. Now we're gonna pour in our cornstarch and water mixture. Look kind of milky or cloudy at first, and then as it heats up, it'll turn clear and it'll kind of thicken. Now the struggle that I have, and kind of internal struggle, is trying to make sure that I'm sizing up recipes without losing the quality of the recipe or the quality of the food. So in that regard, I am using this teriyaki chicken casserole really as a very, very loose inspiration. I'm mostly just using it for ratios because again, I don't usually cook for large groups of people. I don't usually cook for more than 2 people. So I have 2 packs of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. These are each 3. This one's 3.2 pounds, this one's 2.57. So this is about 6 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I'm gonna be taking an extra step with this chicken because this recipe says to put the chicken and the vegetables in the pan, cover it with foil, bake it, and then you're supposed to shred it. I don't want shredded chicken. I like having chunks of chicken. I like to actually have that kind of substance of like having chicken to bite into. So I'm going to take this an extra step and make it the way that I think it's gonna be better. Not necessarily that there's anything wrong with the recipe to begin with, just that I have a way that I prefer for things to be, and shredded chicken usually is not my preference. So that's the other reason. I also bought chicken thighs instead of chicken breasts to make this teriyaki chicken because I don't like breasts in many applications. I prefer thighs. So this is a lot of thighs because there's 9 in each of these packages, but I'm gonna cut up all 18 of them. This is one of the packs of chicken breasts or chicken thighs cubed up. I'm gonna repeat the same thing with the second pack, and I'm also gonna put it on its own pan. I did forget to mention that I've also sprayed both of these with some nonstick cooking spray. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lightly coat the chicken Let's drizzle in some soy sauce and cornstarch. Now I'm going to go in and get that all well coated in the soy sauce and the cornstarch. The reason I did this in 2 separate pans is so none of the chicken is crowded. It should have enough room to kind of get some crisping on it, a little bit of caramelization. I'm going to toss those in 400 degrees for about 15 minutes or so. I just tried this teriyaki sauce, and it is salty, very salty, even though I use reduced sodium soy sauce. I've been toying around with this for a minute. I've added a lot more water and a lot more sugar to it. Like, I didn't do it on camera because I've just been kind of adding and tasting and adding and tasting, but like I've added a lot of water to this to make it not taste like a salt bomb. It's a lot better now. I use that Kikkoman low sodium soy sauce all the time. I've never had it taste that salty. But now I need to add a little bit more cornstarch to it because I've added so much water to it. And this is just part of the process, especially when you're trying something new. But hopefully this is better now. I think it will be. That's my chicken after 15 minutes in the oven. Then I'll be adding 1 bag of stir-fry veggies into each of them. I picked this sugar snap pea stir-fry because it's not very broccoli forward. Those are gonna go back in the oven for another 15 to 20 minutes or so just to start to roast up those vegetables. So here's all of our cooked rice, which I'm gonna throw onto a sheet pan so I can tackle it a bit. First part is I don't just wanna give them plain white rice. So I am gonna toss some of the rice in some of this teriyaki sauce, just give it some flavor. Not too much because I don't want it to be like swimming in the sauce, but I do want it to be coated. Now the second step is going to be I'm going to put this whole sheet pan in the fridge so it can kind of start to rapidly chill so that the rice isn't sitting at the danger zone for too long. I think that these look pretty good. The chicken stir fry that I did in the oven. Now let's add some teriyaki sauce. And I'm gonna start off with about a 1/2 cup scoop of rice in each container. So it looks like it's gonna be about 3/4 of a cup of rice in each container. This does kind of make me feel like I'm running a commercial kitchen. This is the experimental phase of things, so hopefully it gets a little bit better as time progresses. All right, next we have our chicken and vegetable mixture. This is one of the dinner options. This is the teriyaki chicken with rice and stir-fry vegetables. Hopefully those are good. I'm sure it's good. I did try the chicken. I just wish that the sauce was a little bit thicker, but that's okay. This is kind of the point in the video where I feel like things are starting to not go right because I just tried that crock pot chicken pot pie soup. Doesn't have a lot of flavor. It doesn't really taste like chicken pot pie to me. And then the potatoes are still raw, but now the chicken is overcooked. Sucks because that is a big batch of soup and I don't want it to go to waste. When I tell you that the chicken is seriously dry and overcooked, the potatoes are still incredibly raw, so I would have to cook that even longer, which might work to the soup's benefit because maybe the chicken just needs more time. But at this point I've added the vegetables, so those are gonna get overcooked. We're gonna have to figure something out with that. This is reminding me of when I was young, when I was 20, and I had just started on my own, and you know, I didn't know how to cook. So I would look up recipes, I would follow things I saw on Pinterest, and I was always confused about why I didn't like any of it. It almost makes me feel validated in those early years of learning how to cook because sometimes you follow a recipe exactly how it's written and it's just not good. And you can't tell, is it the food, is it the recipe, is it me? So I took some time, did some dishes, just kind of gathered my thoughts, and what I've decided to do is I've decided I'm going to fix the soup. I'm still determined to make it work, But the first step in doing that is to get it out of the crock pot because I have no control over the temperature, no control over the time, and I don't just want to play this waiting game with it. So we're going to transfer it to the stovetop. This is also a reminder to myself of why I very rarely, if ever, cook with my crock pot, because the lack of control as a cook is very hard for me. The whole set it and forget it. I'm just not personally a fan of it. Maybe there are some good slow cooker recipes. Not a fan of this one. We're gonna transfer it to the stovetop. I'm still determined to make some dumplings for it, so that'll probably be what I do, but we're going to try to fix it because ultimately fixing recipes is just as important as following them. I was really hoping to not have to wash my soup pot again, so this soup is kind of just a mess right now. It looks good. I'll say that. It looks good. It just doesn't really taste like much. It's probably as full as I'm gonna get it. And then we're gonna try to bring that up to a boil. First thing I wanna work on is making the soup taste better. It's kind of boring right now. I'm definitely gonna add more pepper to it. Salt and pepper goes a long way. All right, some rosemary might be a good addition to it, as well as some sage. Sage is the primary component in things like poultry seasoning. Already starting to come up to a boil, that's nice. I am also going to add some more chicken stock, chicken broth, and some milk because I want to make room for the dumplings that I want to add to this. Let's start with the chicken broth. Probably save the milk for closer towards the end. It's already a world better. I feel like it could benefit from a little bit more pepper. I'm going to add a little bit more sage. Second issue with the soup, beyond just the raw potatoes, is now the chicken. I feel like it's that Walmart chicken that I got. It's very tough. It's very rubbery. I almost want to see if I can keep it going until the chicken hopefully breaks down and becomes shreddable. Like at least another 30 to 45 minutes simmering before it's like really to that point. At least at this point, the potatoes are tender. Hopefully the chicken breaks down a little bit more. But there is one more recipe that I'm going to be making today beyond the kind of non-cook prep work that I want to do, like making them sandwiches, and that is lasagna rolls. That one should be painless and easy. The first thing I'm going to be starting with is some ricotta cheese, and for that I have a 32-ounce tub, so 2 pounds of ricotta. I'm just going to dump that whole thing into a bowl. I'm also going to be adding some Italian blend cheese. I'm going to add the whole bag. So this is 2 cups. I have another bag for topping cheese, but this is for the filling. I'm gonna go in with 2 eggs, maybe 3. Let's go with 3 eggs. I'm adding some salt and pepper into this. And then lastly, some very well drained chopped spinach that was frozen. I thawed it, I drained it. This is about 2 10-ounce bags of frozen chopped spinach. Again, thawed, very well drained. I mean, like, grab it, squeeze the moisture out of it, put it in a towel, wring it out. You don't want a lot of water in this filling. And that's our cheesy spinach lasagna filling for our lasagna rolls. Also got a pan of water here. This might be a little different for some of you because I'm not using oven ready lasagna noodles, and I wouldn't be able to anyways for lasagna rolls. That's more so if you're making like a sheet pan lasagna. But we need to soften these so that they're pliable. I'm gonna do that by just dunking them in hot water. Well, there's my second kettle of water. That should cover up the rest of the noodles. Put some foil on it and stuck it in the oven for a little bit while it was preheating just to keep the water hot. As long as they're kind of pliable, that's really all you need. Let's go on there with a spoonful of our filling, which again, this is spinach, ricotta, Italian cheeses. Spread it out onto an even layer. And then roll it up. My favorite sauce, which is Prego Italian sausage and garlic. It's already got Italian sausage in the sauce. However, feel free to use your favorite pasta sauce or make your own. Start with a layer of sauce at the bottom. And then as I roll up these little lasagna rolls, I'm going to arrange them in the sauce. And the sauce is really just to keep things from sticking as it bakes in the oven. So there's our pan of lasagna rolls. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24 rolls total. And now I'm just gonna cover them in the rest of the sauce. Spread that out so everything is covered. And this is a family-sized jar of sauce, so this is 44 ounces. And I'm not gonna put cheese on the top right now, and I'll explain why whenever these are baked, but we're gonna throw these in the oven. Let me cover it with foil first. These are gonna go in at 400 degrees for about 30 minutes. This whole day has lasted a lot longer than I thought it would, or that it usually does. It's after 8 o'clock and I started around 11:30 in the morning. So quite a long day, but we just have a couple little things to finish up. One of those is going to be prepping them some sandwiches. So this is Pepperidge Farm Farmhouse Honey White. This is our favorite sandwich bread. This is going to be fairly simple but quite repetitive. I'm really just going to be putting mayonnaise on the sandwiches because I don't know if they like mustard. So that's a lot of mayonnaise. I'm not gonna leave that much on there. Just using the spoon to kind of spread it out. This is light mayo. I used to meal prep sandwiches a lot, and that was the way to keep them from getting soggy, is to put mayonnaise on the bread. You can also use different barriers like cheese. So in this case, I'm gonna go down with some sharp cheddar. Deli meat in the middle. And I'm not going to be adding any lettuce or tomato to these sandwiches because I'm going to give them lettuce and tomato on the side. This is one of those sub kits. It comes with ham and turkey. So I'm going to use some of that. 3 slices of each. I'm also going to add some bacon, because you can't go wrong with bacon. So this is the bacon that I cooked earlier. And then on this other loaf of bread, I'm also gonna do a thin smear of mayonnaise and close that up. Before I pack up any sandwiches, I always wrap them in a piece of paper towel. That just helps prevent, again, getting soggy. So this is how I've always meal prepped sandwiches. And then they go into a Ziploc baggie. These particular sandwiches are a little too big for your standard sandwich bag, so I have to store them in these kind of storage bags, quart-size storage bags. So sandwich number 1, and I'm gonna repeat that for the whole loaf. That loaf made 6 sandwiches. Store them, I'm probably just gonna put them back in the bread loaf bag because it's already designed to fit the bread pretty well. So there are all of our sandwiches packed up for them, ready to go. I think I'm about to have to cap out for the day and resume this tomorrow. There isn't much else to do beyond finishing the lasagna, or the lasagna rolls, I should say, and finishing the soup. For the dumplings, I did about 2 cups of all-purpose flour and about 3/4 of a cup of milk. It's still a little on the tacky side, not all-purpose flour. Did about 2 cups of self-rising flour and about 3/4 of a cup of milk. It's still a little on the sticky side, so I'm gonna turn it out and work in just a little bit more flour, just until I have a nice smooth dough. I hope that's enough. I'm sure that it is, to make some dumplings to go in the soup. So let's pat it out into kind of a thin round. I tossed them in flour just so they didn't stick to each other. And we're just gonna add those in. Give them a stir, make sure that there's no clumps. And let that simmer for about 5 minutes more just to cook those dumplings through. I do think that everything I went through with that chicken pot pie soup was a bit of a roller coaster, but I do think I salvaged it, which, you know, makes me happy. I didn't salvage all of it because I could only salvage what I could fit in that pot, but you know, at least it didn't go to waste, so that makes me happy. And I did get some soup containers this time. These are deli containers. They are, I think it said 32 ounces. Let me show you what these dumplings look like. I made them kind of small, so 5 minutes should have been enough to cook them all the way through. Just make sure that gently stir to make sure that they're not sticking to each other. Now let's just divide it into some containers. And I did indeed get 4 full containers of this soup. Just need to cool a little while before I put the lid on them. The lasagna needs to finish baking in the oven, and then we'll finish this video tomorrow.
Good morning, it's the following day and I'm gonna finish up the meals for donations. I really don't have much to do. Let me show you the lasagna rolls because I didn't show you those, and then we'll get started on today. So these are the lasagna rolls. I put 3 rolls in each container, so I was able to get 8 containers out of it. And after I baked them, I put them in the containers and then I put the cheese on top of that. My reasoning for that is that sometimes when you bake cheese and then you go to reheat it in the microwave, the cheese gets kind of tough. And I didn't want that, so I didn't want the cheese to be baked and then microwaved. It did kind of melt just from the residual heat from the sauce and stuff like that. But I have 8 of these lasagnas. I'll give them 6. I'll keep 2. And I think those are going to be a really great meal for them. All I really have to do today is cut these peanut butter bars and then cut up their fruit for the week. So let's go ahead and take those out, which they came out super easy. They have been in the fridge overnight. I'm in love with how these turned out. Hopefully they taste good. Hopefully they enjoy them. But overall, I'm really pleased with the aesthetic of them. So that makes me very happy. I didn't line them up. Oh no. Okay. That crumbled. I'm gonna let these sit for like an hour or so before I cut into them because I don't want them all to just break off like that. I got them a pineapple this week, which I do hope is ripe. And I also got them a cantaloupe as well. They really liked the cantaloupe that I gave them last week. Now let's see if these have warmed up enough to slice them without them breaking. All right, some of these aren't terrible, but some of the pretzels are popping off too. So any of the ones that the pretzels are popping off, I will just eat or save for us. So these are the salvage ones that really broke or crumbled, or ones that the pretzels kind of popped off, but I do have a nice little tray of them to gift to them. So after 2 kind of long days of prep, here's everything that I'm donating to them this week. We have 6 breakfasts that each have 2 slices of French toast, an egg muffin, 4 sausage links, and some syrup for dipping. The fresh fruit, so that is chopped cantaloupe and chopped pineapple. 2 containers of chicken pot pie soup with dumplings. These are 32-ounce containers each, along with a loaf of turkey, ham, and cheese sandwiches with bacon. And then I'm including some lettuce and fresh sliced tomato that they can add to the sandwiches if they want to. The peanut butter pretzel bars. 6 of these teriyaki chicken with stir-fry vegetables and seasoned rice. And lastly, 6 of these lasagna rolls. These each have 3 rolls per container. So that's our meal donations for this week, and it's a lot of food. Hopefully they get through all of it. If it's too much, I will change up the menu next week. But I feel like this is a really good variety, and I feel like this is a really good structure for me to follow. So this is a lot of food, but again, it is for 2 people, so I'm sure that it will get eaten. I still have to make labels for all of this and then deliver it to them. And the last bit of this video will be that update. So for me, it's been a few days, but for you, it's only been a second. The meals have been delivered. It was kind of a really nice coincidence because it was my first time meeting them. They do have an in-home aide that's there, 8 to 4. And when I was pulling into the driveway, the neighbor that I've been coordinating with was also walking across the street. So it was perfect timing. She didn't know I was coming, but she was able to kind of take me into the house, introduce me to everybody. And it made the first introduction a little bit more comfortable. I feel like having someone there that both of us knew, or all of us knew, I should say, because there were
There was the grandson, the grandmother, the home aide, the neighbor, and myself all in the home at the same time. But it was really lovely getting to meet them. They were incredibly sweet people. I brought all the food in. They were so excited about the next batch of meals. And I went over the whole menu with them, showed them everything that I cooked, kind of talked about the different things that I prepared, and it was really fun. I asked some questions and the neighbor asked some questions. I was trying to get a feel for what they liked, what they didn't like. Are things reheating well? How was the process going? You know, asking questions to the home aide as well. And everything was stellar. Everything was great. They really liked that I label the food. I usually give it names too, which has been really helpful because she wakes up in the morning and she can say, I want the farmer's breakfast. I also learned that one of her favorite things that I've made so far has just been mashed potatoes. And the home aide even said that she's had to take a meal out, take the mashed potatoes out, and cook those for her because she really just wants mashed potatoes sometimes. So I told them they were just instant mashed potatoes, that I added butter and sour cream to them, and that I will make them a big batch of mashed potatoes with the next meals that I drop off. As this video is already really long, I apologize. I've tried to cut it down as much as I can, but I did cook a lot of food in that video, so it's like an hour long, and that's as short as I think I can make it without losing integral information. I wasn't super chatty during the video, so that wasn't the reason. It's just because I cooked so many things. I am excited to see how they like this week's menu. I'm already thinking towards next week's menu. I knew that the soup that I wanted to do was probably going to be a corn chowder, which, you know, while I was there and found out that she liked potatoes, I was like, well, do you like potato soup? And she's like, I love potato soup. And her grandson was like, she really likes that corn and potato. I think it's called corn chowder. And it was just coincidence that I had already written down corn chowder to make them for next week. I was also told that she really loves fish, specifically catfish. I'm a little bit hesitant on that though, because I know it's going to be reheated in the microwave and I don't want to give them something that won't reheat well. But I will experiment with some fish dishes to see if I can incorporate some of that into their meals as well. I came home so happy. I came home so full of love, and I felt just an insane amount of comfort from the process and from meeting them and just being able to go over the food with them and talk about their favorites. And it was really insightful. It was really fun. And I can use that information towards next week's meals. I hope you guys stay tuned for that. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you again soon.